Welcome back to Chicago Now, a new topic that's also kind of relates to what Block Club Chicago was talking about.
Yeah, we're talking about dignity in care, whether that's people who are going to the hospital or people who are in another vulnerable population, people with disabilities, or we like to say differently abled people who are seeking care as well. So let's go ahead and bring in Robert Slack. He is the president and CEO of Community Options and the author of a new book that we certainly hope people will seek out, Silent No Longer, Advancing the Fight for Disability Rights. Robert, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
I greatly appreciate you having me on your show. This is absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, and really important topic as well. When we're addressing people who, in some instances, maybe can't speak for themselves or fight for themselves. You've stepped into that space here. So this is about for-profit care. And tell me why that specifically is your area of interest here.
Well, thank you again. Community Options is a nonprofit organization, and what we do is develop housing and employment for people with disabilities. And I've been doing this for several decades. And the issue is that we're a nonprofit, and so we've done this in order to help people with disabilities, and it's become a very important idea. So what has happened, so just to break it down, people with disabilities over the last 30 years have been marginalized. They've been put in large institutions. They've been put in nursing homes. And when I say nursing homes, I mean children that are under the age of 20 who've been put in nursing homes. And there's well over 200,000 people with disabilities that have been stuck in nursing homes just because they have intellectual disabilities, autism, cerebral palsy, etc. So this has been a very serious issue, and what we've been doing with a lot of other agencies is working to get people out of institutions that are state-run institutions like Misericordia, to put people into the community so they can have a small house and do what you and I would do, which is get a job, enjoy life, learn how to cook, etc. And this has become a very wonderful thing, and everyone talks about deinstitutionalization, and it's very important. However, what's happened is, over the last several years, private equity kind of reared its ugly head. And I'm not against private equity when it comes to, buying computer companies or flying jets or whatever. But when it comes to people with disabilities, what happens is they have been marginalized, and they have been also exploited, where they make money off the backs of people with disabilities, and it's been very, very bad. And they have over 1,000 agencies like mine. They would come into and say, we're going to give you money, we'll buy your company, and you'll become private equity. Of course, when they came to me, I said, no, I wouldn't do that. And there's over 1,000 agencies that are similar to this.
Robert, can you share some maybe examples of this kind of abuse, neglect, financial exploitation you've seen in for-profit facilities?
Sure. One of the things that's, first of all, there have been a lot of for-profit institutions that have literally been closed down. They've been closed down because of significant investigations that have been made to show that they're providing very, very bad care. And those were in states like Florida, certainly states like Massachusetts, certainly states like New Hampshire, and a variety of other states. And they've literally come in and saw things that have been going on, both with the private equity and also in state-run institutions. It's just terrible. One of the institutions that I saw, for example, they would literally use what they call aversion therapy. And the aversion therapy would be a cattle prod where they put batteries in it and they would shock people, and that's how they would get them to move around. And this is as current as this year. Or they also would squirt ammonia in their face, or they would tie them up on conference tables or roll them up in mats. And I physically saw this less than a year ago, and it's been really disheartening. When you showed my book, which is the greatest book in the world.
Oh, right. Of course, the author would say that.
Yes, the guy that's on the front there is in a tie and a really nice looking guy. When we met him, They had flown him from Massachusetts to Texas, where I was at the time, and on a private plane because they had the state of they were under state orders to do this, and they literally landed in a private plane and they opened up the door and they kicked him onto the tarmac like a sack of potatoes, and he was in handcuffs and leg irons. I felt like it was a rerun of Silence of the Lambs, only it wasn't a movie, it was reality.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is, we were able to get this guy. He is now not on any kind of aversion kind of conditioning or any
Wow.
kind of capital punishment. He goes to rodeos, and he enjoys going to this. He loves going to get fast food. Who doesn't? And he's been doing a tremendous integration into the community. So we've been able to get people like him into wonderful programs, and that's one of the things we're trying to fight.
Well, Robert, we certainly appreciate you sharing what you've seen firsthand, and also more of these stories. Again, because your book is called Silent No Longer. Speaking up is a really big part of it. Having someone to speak on your behalf sometimes is a really big part of it. Having someone to advance, as you say here, your fight, maybe when you can't. You know, you mentioned Misericordia, and I do want to just point out, you know, we've gone to Misericordia many a times and spoken with the folks over there, and obviously everyone's going to have a different opinion of what you see there and you know, what your experience is. But a lot of times family members feel at their wits' end, like they have no help. They're trying to figure out who could step in and give the care, the right care to their family member that maybe they can't themselves. So if you'll maybe speak to where families end up in making these decisions, because I don't want to shame anybody for the decision that they may make if they feel they're making the right decision, but speak to how people end up in that situation where it's like they're trying to make the best call, but there really aren't a whole lot of options.
Let me tell you about a guy named Bernard. Bernard is a guy who happens to be blind, and he happens to be intellectual disabilities, and he lived in a facility very, very similar to Misericordia. And when I met him, I said, "What are you doing, Bernard?" And he says, "Well, I take these pens, these plastic pens, and I put them in a box, and I put that box in a bigger box, and I put that box in a bigger box." And I said, "Well, why do you do that?" He goes, "It's ridiculous, isn't it? I don't know why." Anyway, I said, "How would you like to live in a small house in the community that by the way, would save the taxpayers a tremendous amount of money?" But I didn't explain that to him. And I said, "How would you like to live in a small house in the community, and we'll see if we can help you live a better life?" So he said, "Great, I would be interested in doing that." And his family, they said, "Well, let's try it." They said, we didn't have any alternatives before, because when Bernard was younger, that was all they told us that we were able to do. So I did that. And we took him out, and he lived in a small house, and now he lives in a condominium, and he is a receptionist, and he answers the phone.
Wow.
And he's doing a tremendous job. And I said to him, "What did you hate about living in the institution?" And he said, "Robert, I had to take ice cold showers and with a lot of other people." I said, "Wow." And I said, "What do you like now?" He goes, "I like listening to the television. I like listening to the sports page, and I like the way that I can hear all of the movie channels and watch them." And he now he lives in a small condo, as I said. He has a job. He makes about $16 an hour. We helped him with his down payment, and he owns his own little 2-bedroom condo. He has a little elliptical machine, and he does really, really well. This is a person who parents, and I said, what did you think of your parents when they put you there? And he said, "Robert, that's what the doctors told him was the best place for me to be." But now he's doing fine, and they're happy, he's happy, and that's all we're doing. We're just asking people to have an open mind. It's not there's no magic pill. There's no answer to any kind of person
Yeah,
who has a
yeah.
disability. Certainly, I applaud the people that work in many of these facilities. They work very hard, and they're tremendous people. But what we try to do is come up with an alternative where people can be more taxpayers and tax burdens. We try to come up more of an alternative where people can not only work in the community, but be part of it, to enjoy it. There's a direct relationship between the severity of your disability and your level of loneliness.
Yeah,
We
well,
think
Robert,
that if you can get out and be with other people, it's in your best interest.
Yeah.
Especially people that are different and people you can identify with.
sure.
Robert, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for what you do too. Quickly, because we're running out of time, where can people find your book?
It's on Amazon, and it's also on Barnes and Noble, and you can get it anywhere. And it's robertstack.org. So just go to robertstack.org, and you can find it on my website.
Two
Robert.
handsome guys on there. Thank you so much.
Great chatting with
Thank
you. Thank you for what you do.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.